Hi everyone. So today we have an interview with two people, which is very exciting because before we had interviews with just one person, but today we have two beautiful ladies here and we will be discussing the placement and how it works. So for those of you who don't know, placement is the year you're working, not studying. And usually it's included in your academic program, but I'm not an expert because I've never done placements in my life. I usually did summer internships. But these two ladies have done it and they were working at two amazing companies. So we have Sofya here, and Sofya was working in Kantar and she was the intern in the marketing field. And Lily was doing her placement in IBM and she was working as a technical intern. So Lily, do you want to start and just describe what your responsibilities were?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Lily. I'm a management with marketing student in my third year, almost going to my fourth year. My placement is a technology role in IBM, and specifically I work for the NetWest integrated account. So we're a team that's dedicated for a bank providing technology services and new innovations. So my role is quite dynamic and there's no way to describe it because my first task was to write my own job description. So in brief, I guess my role is to look for new opportunities that can be applied to the bank and learn new technologies and think about how they can be used in a better way or applied in an innovative way to our client.
That's great. Sofya, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. So, hey guys, my name is Sofya and I worked as a global marketing intern in the Insights division in Kantar. So Kantar is a consulting and global marketing research company. And what we did, we created research and my team specifically worked on marketing those research around the world through different platforms. And we worked on global projects. So that was probably one of the main benefits of my placements, which I'm gonna talk a little bit more soon.
Great. Yeah, you make me feel sorry that I've never done placements in my life. Okay, just to describe what placement is for those who are considering doing it or who've never done it, as myself. So what is a placement apart from being a work abroad, being a year abroad, or being year of practice? I know it can be different for different programs, but do you have something additional to say and describe the placement?
So for me, a placement is exactly what Alice just described. It's a way to provide you with choices to actually go into the industry that you're interested in, and hopefully that's related to what you're studying. So actually applying this knowledge in real life scenarios and bring this knowledge to life and see how it works in the real company. But I guess the structure is slightly different in different subjects. For example, we're in management, so we only do it 1 year in the third year. But maybe there are other programs, especially in the University of Bath, that some students go on half-year placements from second year to fourth year. That's my assumption.
Also, I guess I'd like to add to what Lily and Alice said, is that placement is an opportunity for you to actually make mistakes. So it's a year you obviously working hard and you doing some real stuff, let's say, but it's also the year when you can make all your mistakes, when you can apply theory and understand whether you applied right or wrong and how you can do it differently. And that's where the team you'll be working with is there to help you try doing it right. So I guess that sums everything up.
How hard is it typically to find a placement?
So actually, it depends. So let's say the first factor is the organizational one, and even from that point of view, I would say it's quite hard. So when you trying to search for a placement, university is trying to help you as much as possible. So for example, Lily, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had sessions that were run by the university where they helped us finding the placement, preparing for placement, preparing for the interviews, preparing for tasks, trying to get those skills needed for the industry. And university also provided us with the specific hub where all of the positions were listed. But if you're that person who was also looking through different websites like Middle Ground or Graduate Jobs or any other website to find a placement, it would actually be very similar. But at the same time, what great, for example, our university did to us, which is Bath University, is that it provided exclusive placement. So what's an exclusive placement? It's a company that university is working with really closely. It has connections with it. And if you apply to that exclusive placement, it means that you're the one who won't need to complete all of these steps of the application process compared to any other student from any other university. So you might miss test, one interview, and go straight to the last interview, let's say, or the assessment center. So that's something great our university provided. So this would ease, if your university is doing something similar, that would ease your job of finding the placement. Lily, anything else?
I think, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. In terms of just how difficult it is, in average, it's not going to be easy for everyone. So especially for me, because I didn't have any previous working experience. And I imagine there are similar people out there who's in the same situation. But at the same time, as difficult as it can be, there are so many things you can do to increase your chance to be employed or to find a placement. And if you already have a placement included in your program, and just as Sofya said, there are so much support resources from your university and from your peers to help you through this process. So do make sure you utilize all those resources as much as you can.
Great. And what are the advantages of doing a placement? So I think this question works more for those considering doing placement, so those for whom it's not compulsory. But what can you say to make people choose the placement?
Oh, so if you don't mind, I'll start on that. So there are many different advantages of doing a placement, and probably the biggest and the best advantage is that you might get a graduate position. This is really important for the international students, for those who will need to get a work visa after finished studying. And many, not all, but many big companies like IBM, consulting companies, banks, other different companies from other industries, they do provide a graduate position if you show yourself as a good employee and a hard-working one. They will get you to work with them afterwards. So that's one. The next one is obviously experience. So you're able to apply everything that you did throughout the course, throughout all of the lectures. That theory you can actually apply on practice. I mean, it depends on what industry you'll be working in and what company, but at least some theory you will be able to apply, whether it's marketing, for example, in our case, or even technology, as Lily and I did the technological module. So you will be able to apply something. And I would stop on the third one and let also Lily say some more advantages. But the third one is contacts and networking. So throughout that year, you get a lot of people who you can also continue communicating after your placement. They can help you get another job, or in general, you can just continue talking to them, continue communicating, and in future, you might start something new and interesting with them as well. And they're also someone you can learn from, and that's something that placements can provide, and the third year studies sometimes doesn't, because these are the new people you wouldn't be able to meet if you have stayed at uni.
Yeah, absolutely agree on those. And I think for me, it's most importantly that there are no bad choices for placement. This is an opportunity for you to go out there to see anything you want to go across to different sectors. And even if that turns out to be absolutely horrible, you still learn that you actually don't like that sector. That's something very valuable to learn before you graduate, before you choose a career path and actually go on towards that path. So for me, it turned out fabulous because I found out something and I went to industry and something that I absolutely love. So this can be the best that scenario, but there's no worst scenario in this case, since you have the chance to make mistakes, and even if you end up in somewhere that you don't like, you still learn about how business works at minimum, and you still get exposed to that environment that will be really, really helpful for you in the future once you graduate and look for a job.
Great. That's actually very motivating. But the other side are the mistakes you're talking about. So some of the mistakes people make during placements can be irreversible. So they can feel very, very emotionally drained after placements. And I think I've heard lots of stories like that. So I'm aware that both of your experiences were quite positive, and I'm very, very happy for you. But people on the other side, so people who consider their placement to be the worst part of their life, what do you think makes them feel that way? So what are the disadvantages of doing placements?
If I can start on that, I can't say there are disadvantages. I mean, maybe the one and only is that you're missing a year at uni and you could have finished university a year earlier, but it's not a disadvantage, but your placement can turn around badly, as you said, Alice, and it very much depends on the atmosphere and on your colleagues, on your work. There is so many different factors around that. But again, as Lily said, it's an experience and you're going through it, so you're learning even from that bad experience and from bad team member or some kind of line manager that you can't really understand how to communicate with, or any other difficulty. So if we can call this a disadvantage, that would be it. But at the same time, there are ways to deal with it. We can discuss it now. So for example, if you have any problems with your line manager, you can try talking to the manager of your line manager, or you can try discussing it with your colleagues. And something that our university provided us with, and something that was really, really helpful, and some of ours with Lily's years did and used, is that we had our placement manager. So the placement manager was the person who you could contact 24/7, and she could help you with anything, with dealing with your line manager, or with coming back to university, with any questions. So you can also get in contact with her and say that, hey, I'm having a problem, I did this and that didn't work, can you please advise me something, maybe I can talk to someone else. So our university was really supportive and tried to make our experience as positive as possible. So I guess that's that. Lily, anything maybe to add to this if I forgot?
That's exactly what I felt like. So we have a safety net during placement, that even if it turns out to be not great, you have a second option, you have someone to talk to and see how you can change that scenario, change your situation, and how you can survive that. And if you do feel offense at workplace, definitely go talk to your university and see how you can change this situation, because often this should not happen at workplace. And also, if this is not something, if you're simply not happy because this is not the kind of role you were looking to, maybe this is a chance for personal growth in terms of how you learn from the situation and how you survive in university. And also, since it's just 1 year, any skill can be quite valuable as long as you try your best to learn them.
Okay, so you actually touched on my next question, which is how can you ensure, or at least try to ensure, that your placement will be a good experience? So from what you've said, you mentioned the safety net, so you always have some support available and you should not be scared to use the resources available to you, and also make sure to ask for help if needed. So that's completely okay to ask for help. But do you have any other advice for students on placements, or for students going into placements, on how to make this experience good and pleasurable?
Actually, probably the best way is to start thinking about it from the beginning. So how you can get the very first taste of whether your placements might turn out good or bad is actually understanding from your very first interview, whether it's a phone interview or in-person interview. So the very first second you come to the interview, you understand the atmosphere, and you most likely going to be talking to a line manager. So you will understand his or her leadership style, his or her requirements, what he or she wants from you, from the whole team in general, and how you're going to be communicating in the future. So if from the first second you understand that you're not able to work with this person, then that's the sign you should decline this position. But at the same time, you should give it a chance and maybe finish the interview. And what's very important, you should ask questions. So when you're at the interview, you should remember that interview, it's not a one-way communication. It's not the line manager or anyone else asking you questions and waiting for a reply. It's a two-way communication where you are actually have all those rights to ask the questions. And I'm more than sure Lily will say that as well. We suggest that you should ask as many questions as possible. Ask questions about the culture, ask questions about the position, ask questions about the day-to-day job, ask questions about what's going to happen if you stay in the company. So try to find something that's very important for you and ask questions around that. Because, for example, I mentioned culture. Culture is something extremely important. If you don't fit the culture or the culture doesn't fit you, you will struggle, and that will turn into a very bad experience. You will hate it. We have so many cases from our year, people who loved the company during the interview. They loved not the company as the culture of the company, they loved the sound of the company. It sounded big, it sounded professional, the role sounded amazing, and they did everything to get into it. The day they came to work, that very first day, they realized that it's not something they expected, and they hated it from day one to the day 365 when they finished the placement. So try not to wait until the beginning of the placement when you actually can't go anywhere. You can finish a placement during the first day or first week, but it won't count into your year as a whole. So try understanding whether it's something for you or not for you from the beginning. So that would be one advice from me.
I think that's right on the point. For me, I was going to say exactly the same thing, but even before the interview, when you are thinking which companies you're applying, don't just read the job descriptions, don't just read what they say they are. But since you have such a network of other students, maybe just 1 year older than you, who's already been to a placement, go talk to them, ask what their role was, and see exactly what they're doing, because the job description might not necessarily reflect what that role entails. And sometimes that can change when you're actually going to the department. So go talk to your students, or maybe even your university tutor who has experience in the industry, who might be able to advise you. And more importantly, at least in our university, students who have been on placements have to write a report for future students to refer to what their placement experience like. So definitely do read those. Those forms look extremely long and look a bit dull, but I found that was the best source of information for me to understand what that placement will actually like if I am going to that company.
That's great. And I have actually something to add about Sophia's point about asking questions, because I was the person who's always scared to ask questions, because I thought that would make me look unprofessional, or that would make me look like I don't know the subject here. Recently, I had an interview with a very prominent professor, and that was a chance for me to try something new, and asking questions was the new thing I tried. And actually, I asked so many questions. At some point, I completely lost myself in asking questions, but I was really interested in this subject. And despite the fact that it was a 2-phase interview, I was accepted immediately, and the professor was very, very impressed with my knowledge and my enthusiasm. So that's I'm just saying it for the purposes of making it clear. Don't be scared to ask questions. It actually makes you look interested in the position, and I think that's the most important thing for the employers, to see that you're interested, to see that you're passionate. So don't be scared to look unprofessional or to look like someone who doesn't know the subject. So that was something I wanted to add. And another thing, I think you both touched it, is the culture on the workplace. I know that all of us come from a learning environment, so we've been studying for a long time, and dare I say we were good at it, but then something completely changed for you, right? Like you started working after just 3 years of studying and bachelor degree. So how was this transition for you? So what differences have you noticed? Or maybe there were no differences and for you everything was very, very balanced and harmonious. So how was this transition for you guys?
So for me, there were two transitions. Firstly, transitioning from university life to working life. But obviously for most of us, we had to actually transition from office life to working from home life. So touching on the first point, how do we adapt to working life from the university life where we don't have to wake up for, to be there at 9 a.m. or simply skip a lecture? But it is quite difficult when you imagine it, but actually when you get used to it, you always be quite excited for your first role. You're always keen to learn something new, and it's a quite different environment where people are supportive and supporting you through this transition process. So it's not going to be as terrifying as you think, and in fact, it can be an exciting journey at the start of your placement where you try to adapt to this new life mode. But just transitioning to remote working can be difficult for many people. And one thing I found most difficult is to switch off. And this is something that even people who have worked for decades also suffered at the starting of the lockdown. So we found it's quite quite helpful to actually have a ritual after your day actually ends. So for example, maybe exactly at 5 p.m. we are supposed to get off work, close your laptop. Actually, some of my colleagues mentioned they put their laptops in a case and then they leave their room and they go for something else, almost like they're leaving the office. So making sure your brain also switches off when it's supposed to be is quite important.
I would say that it wasn't hard for me at all to switch. I would say I even like the environment a little bit more than studying. I guess that's mostly due to the fact that from 6:01 or sometimes, and a lot of the time later, till 8:55 and 48 hours during the weekend, you're living a different life from working life. And you're actually becoming a very, very different person, and you're just separating from your family almost. And that's something we never feel during the time when we're studying, because we study 24/7, we don't have barriers, we know that we have assignments coming up, so we have to finish it. It's not like that in the industry. In the industry, you know when you can finish and when you can actually go and rest, with no that thought on the back of your mind saying, oh my God, you have a deadline in like 3 hours, you have to finish it, where are you going? So it's very different. And when you understand that you have this ease, your attitude to work and to everything you do changes. So adapting to working environment, it's much easier on that side, but other side, you're feeling that responsibility, and that responsibility makes you work even harder and understand that you have to finish it by, I mean, if not 6, but at least 9, and then go have a rest. So from that point of view, it's something great that you can change for a year and then come back. So that transition, it's something really important you have to learn, because you will completely forget it while studying for 3 years. Oh, actually 2 years in our case, but it doesn't matter, maybe even 3 years and going on placement afterwards. But you need this change to understand how the studying environment differs from working environments, and understand what you like more, which will help you then make a decision whether to go to masters or go and start working, as both Lily and I will do.
So my next question is, how did you go about choosing the firms? So did you follow any guidelines, or did you go with your inner feeling and just applied for the positions you actually liked, you wanted to work for? Did you have any other strategy during the job search?
So for me, I think I started very narrowly because I was a management with marketing student. So obviously at first I never even considered something like a technology role. But at the same time, I'm very grateful that I made that choice. And that made me realize at the beginning when I started to think about making a selection of firms I'm going to apply to, it's quite important to not draw a circle and limit yourself within that circle. That being said, it doesn't mean like you just send your CV to hundreds of companies. It means to open up yourself and think about what exactly you're interested in. It can't just be one thing that's related to a course. I think even for most of the marketing students, our interests are not just limited by marketing. And even if it's a slightly different industry, it doesn't mean you can't apply the same knowledge to your placement role or to your future career. So this is quite important for me at the time because I'd never consider anything outside marketing in the initial stage, which made me feel quite limited and made me feel like I didn't have much choice in my placement. So maybe I didn't even have a chance to get a placement at that time. I was quite depressed, as you said. So it was important to look for adjacencies in your interest and think about what you could possibly apply that interest to.
To add to that, I would say that I would share actually my experience and ask you not to do the same. So after some time of applying to different companies and getting rejections, you start to lose the track. And also you feel quite depressed, again, if you're an international student, because I'd say it's a life hack and maybe some news for those who doesn't know it. But many companies don't take international students because they have to pay for their visa, and thinking about the long term, they won't even take you on a placement, even if they know you can do it, just because they don't want to pay for you in future. So once you get 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 rejections, you can feel depressed. And what I did, I started to apply as many roles and as many positions in all of the industries left without looking and reading the job descriptions. So everywhere I saw the word marketing, I was like, apply. So just to have this opportunity and to feel like I'm doing something, I'm applying for placement, I'm getting the test, I'm getting the interview, but that's a completely wrong strategy. Don't do it because you're losing your focus, as Lily said. It's very important to understand and to set priorities before you apply to the placement or before you click apply to this position, as you need to read the job description and understand whether you like this task, whether you like this culture, whether you like what company is doing. And very, very important thing, Lily mentioned it as well before, it's to read the comments of the previous interns, as well as to read the comments of the previous or current employees on very different websites. So that was several factors I looked at. So yeah, I guess our common advice will be not to lose track and focus on what you really want, and just read as much as you can around and about the position and the company you're applying to.
Great, okay, those were great answers. And my last question is more related to your psychological well-being. So I know that when you transitioned to the working environment, you were alone and probably you didn't have anyone you know in the company. So everything was new, and most importantly, everyone was new. So how was it for you to be alone and to find friendships and to build connections, to establish rapport? So how was it for you girls?
So for me, it was slightly different than most of my friends from my year who went to big cities like London, where you still might have certain extent of a cohort. But since I chose Edinburgh, there's literally no one I knew from my university or my schools there. I think firstly, I try to explore the city as much as possible, because this is a great opportunity for you to find out about a new environment and enjoy it as much as possible. But at the same time, I think going back, it might be helpful to have a support network for myself and to develop some new friendships. So maybe having a platform that can connect students together would be quite helpful for me at the start, to at least maybe someone who knows something about local restaurants, for example, who might have the knowledge to take you around and maybe build up some new friendship in a new city.
Lily, actually, I completely agree with you on that. And I would say that I was doing my placement in London, and I do have a lot of friends in London, and I did when I joined the placement. But as I started very early in the year, it was June, all of my friends left for vacation or went home. So there was no one there. And what I did the first day I came, without even unpacking my bags, I went to the networking event, because I really needed to meet someone, and really needed to talk to someone from the industry, from very different companies, and just to make some friends just from the beginning. And that's an option I found, but I would say that I would also benefit from something, maybe platform or an app, as Lily said, that would connect me to the similar students who would have just joined the placement in June and would find someone to connect with. So maybe not such a big networking event where all of the professionals and I was just starting. I mean, it was a great experience, but I would actually love to have met these students like me, and as Lily said, go to the restaurant with them, and to just continue communicating throughout the year. So yeah.
Yes, just adding to that, I think that will be even more important for this year if students are starting to work remotely. They're going to be isolated by themselves if not staying with their family. So it's quite important to have someone to talk to after work and maybe share your experience and just talk things through. So I think it definitely helps to have that local network available to you.
Great. And our last question, and the way we'll finish this interview, is what would you want yourself, your younger self, so yourself who was applying for all the jobs, know? So I think that way you can give just one advice for everyone who's starting applying now or who's considering doing placement. So what would you want them to know?
So for me, it's that anxiety doesn't help, especially when I first started to apply and looking for opportunities and seeing your friends, so many of your friends suddenly have already got a placement, and you just get that, not even peer pressure, but just thinking that, oh, I might be behind, but it doesn't help at all. All you can do is start with small steps. Anything would help to increase your chance. Just do it maybe for 5 minutes, and as soon as you start doing it, it feels easier. And you just making sure that you regularly check that you're doing the right thing, and making sure you're doing something strategic, and just making sure you are in a healthy mental state and to look after yourself.
To add to that, because I would also actually advise something like this, is to try to find a supportive company and supportive environment. Rest, talk to your family, make a call to your mom, to a friend, to your brother, go out for a dinner. Don't apply 24/7, because it is really hard. It is really hard for all of your states as well as the mental one. And just remember, as Lily said, to rest up, because that's very important. You need that energy to apply, you need that energy to do the test, you need the energy to do the research for your interviews, and you just won't be able to find this energy if you apply 24/7. And as we said, don't lose focus. Apply only to those positions you're truly interested in. So yeah, I guess good luck to you all, and you can do amazing. even during this time of COVID. You can do it if you believe in yourself.
Great. It was really nice talking to you. I really appreciate you making effort and finding time, because I know that both of you are quite busy right now. So thank you. That was a great talk. And I think I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Great. Bye.